What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another stream here. Thanks again for tuning in. Sorry not being on yesterday, just couldn't be on. I was going to say, just anyways, didn't have the time to be on yesterday due to our private group. Sometimes the schedules just don't meet, so I try to be on as much as I can, just kind of is what it is. So good morning, guys. So anyways, quite a big watch list down there, biggest we've had in quite some time. That's because we're coming into earnings season, which earnings plays create volatility. Volatility creates opportunity. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of speed through this just because we got a lot of things to cover. So we'll touch on Netflix here. So Netflix had an absolutely beautiful day yesterday, kind of rip and roared from 357 all the way to a high of 378 in after-hours trading. Let me close out this and this. Don't need that on. So anyways, yes, Netflix, really big day yesterday. This came after its earnings result. So we did the old shake and bake on earnings, right? We dropped out. We got bought all the way back up. And now we're pressing up to previous high levels that we haven't been able to break for quite some time. So we're right about this 378 level. So long bias on Netflix, at least for the next couple days. I think we're going to see Netflix up and over 380. It kind of makes sense that we would. So today I'd be watching Netflix for a pullback and then look for a long play. All right. So again, following Netflix pretty closely for a pullback, long play over the 380 mark. We haven't broken 380s in quite some time. It's been a pretty significant resistance. So, do take note on that we are at a pretty heavy sell point in terms of resistance, but I think it's ready to get up and over those levels here soon. Whether it's today, tomorrow, next couple days, we should be getting ready for that. So today, watching Netflix long after a pullback. Someone's going to be like, well, where are we watching the pullback to? There's really no great levels that it set in yesterday. They were all just kind of slight little dip marks. So, really just kind of mark off any one of these levels, previous highs, dip points. But, around the 374, 372 would probably be a good area to watch for a dip on Netflix too. So seeing if we dip to a recovery long play. All right. No problem. Thank you. Tesla's in a downtrending, descending triangle formation. So if you're thinking short, I wouldn't be long on it, right? If anything, I'd be more bearish on Tesla after the car exploded and the fact that it's descending into support rather than bouncing off support. It's descending stronger into support. So I think we're going to see Tesla break down into the 240 areas. And especially because we have earnings coming up on Thursday after hours, that's going to play a big role. So, if Tesla can meet production standards, then there's a good chance we'll see Tesla's earnings pop. But if they don't meet production, we'll probably see Tesla earnings fall into the 240s, maybe high 230s before recovering, I would say. What's going on, Mr. Don Fran? What's going on? Hold on one second. All right, so we had Netflix. Netflix is good. Move over to Twitter. So Twitter reports earning today. Classic. I think I taught you this, guys, before. If you ever watch an earnings report, whichever way it spikes first, it's going to go the opposite way most likely. What you see right here, this big down wick, that's a stop loss taker. So anytime you see an earnings report come out and it slams down like this, it's basically crushing everybody who is long bias for the past couple weeks, right? So if you look, a bunch of people are probably long on Twitter here or even here, and they're like, well, this is support right in here, so that's where I'll keep my stop. Next thing you know, they all get taken out all the way down to this previous dip mark, and then it rips on it. So that's how a lot of people get taken out of earnings plays. They keep too tight of a stop, and then they whipsaw it back and forth to take out stop losses before running it in the opposite direction. So anyways, Twitter spikes up, kind of giving back some of its gains. Probably going to watch Twitter long. If it just whip down, spikes up, in theory, people have a bullish sentiment to it. So going to be watching Twitter long bias. It's got this big gap to fill here, so there is potential for slight gap fill on the day up over 38. So that's kind of it. We need to see it over $38 where it was, or just a retrace back to previous highs of pre-market. hopefully going into a little bit of that gap within the chart it created on a previous earnings way back when in 2018. So we're looking for a little bit of a gap fill here on Twitter today. If not today, a couple days, couple weeks from now, still going to be following it long bias, okay? So keeping an eye on Twitter long bias. Pre-market, it's got a small support system starting to base around 36. And then you have that previous high pre-market around 37.50. So just kind of watching these channels right here and seeing how it forms after the first couple minutes on the day. Probably not going to chase in on the first couple 5 minutes. See how it sets up, see if it remains good, and then go from there. But Twitter, another one with volatility today. Next one on the list, WHR. This is going to be a little bit higher price, but stock ripped from 138 to 152 on earnings. It is coming down into this dip area at 146.65. So you could watch this for a little bit of a bounce here pre-market, see if it holds up. But nonetheless, this is another stock that has a big range. So big range can create a good move, right? So going to watch this initially for a pullback. And see if it gets bought up. By the looks of it right now, it's not holding up the greatest, but let me just put one thing on here. Let me go back to this chart. If it starts to break down below 143 on the day, at that point I would classify it as no longer a good long play. So as long as it bounces off 145, off of 143.89, then I can consider it a long. If it starts to break below any of these yellow, which I already broke the yellow, blue, or green, I'll no longer consider it for a long play. So you can put prices on there at basically 145.50 and 143.90. So anyways, going to be watching Whirlpool today. First long bias. If long fails, then short bias. Last one, Hasbro. So anyways, you can see big volatility here from $88 to a high of 103. So strong push. Going to be watching this one. Long biased first. If long fails, then I'll be going short bias. We did kind of push up into a previous resistance. But so far pre-market, it's actually holding very well, just consolidating sideways. So this might be one of those where we have a gap up, consolidate sideways, and just rips a few points out of the gate. So going to be following this for an initial spike out of the gates, long bias. And then if that fails, then I'll follow it short bias. And those are all the stocks I'm watching. I know some people are going to be asking some questions about some other ones, so we'll take a look at that in just a little bit. Okay, now that I'm done talking. Thoughts on Boeing after earnings? Well, they didn't have. Did they have earnings? No, not yet. What are my thoughts on Boeing and their earnings? I thought you said after and the earnings. There's a couple ways I look at it, right? So with the production cut, I haven't kept up on Boeing's news recently. Some things may have changed since I've last really been following them. But the way I see it is it depends on how much the cutting of the production of the Boeing 737 MAX actually cuts into their profits. And if it actually did cut into any of their profits, that's really the main thing there. And even if it does start to cut into any of their profits, the news broke basically at the end of this quarter. So then you ask yourself, well, how much of the production cut or the sales that you were going to be getting on those planes is really going to affect the quarter that's already really taken place? Or is this going to affect forward guidance for the next quarter? So that's the way I would look. I think if issues aren't fixed, and I haven't kept up on Boeing, but if issues aren't fixed with Boeing soon with the whole plane and planes start to sell again, then following quarter is probably where you would see a sell-off, or you're going to see it pick up, because if analysts and the big guys are all pricing in the move of the Boeing for next quarter, you'll see this quarter probably decline a little bit for Boeing, and then following quarter pick back up as production starts to pick back up and as sales start to pick back up. So a lot of people are already probably pricing in a move for this whole Boeing problem. So, however you want to look at it. I mean, there's so many theories and so many ways to look at it. You got to be able to build one yourself. But the way I look at it is, I think we'll see a short-term drawdown, and then Boeing's going to pick right back up. It's just short-term drawdown, pick back up. So, if this earnings sells off pretty good, I would probably start watching Boeing long. What about Bitcoin? Will 5,000 break? I don't keep up on Bitcoin. No, I don't really watch it too much, but will 5,000 break? Probably. I don't see why not. Maybe. Again, I don't follow Bitcoin. But again, Bitcoin, for the purpose, it's not the leader. Everybody thinks that Bitcoin is the leader in terms of pricing and in terms of who follows it the most. But in reality, Bitcoin is not the best cryptocurrency. So in the long run, in theory, Bitcoin should fail, right? It just makes sense because it's not the best cryptocurrency. So if cryptocurrency is there to, complete transactions fast and money from me to you without using a middleman or a bank, in theory, Bitcoin would fail because it's not the fastest cryptocurrency. And in this day and time, people are already consumed with the idea of conveniency as one, right? With things that are convenient and fast. And just imagine 20 years down the road, if Bitcoin takes 5 minutes to process a transaction while another one only takes 10 seconds to process a transaction. Who are you going to go with? Not Bitcoin. But again, I'm not a cryptocurrency master by any means. I just think logically with simple logic. Okay, ACB. I'm currently long ACB right now. Hello from Miami. ICON and SUNW, Dennis, they could be performing a little bit well, not that I'm aware of it, but since I've been trading ICON and SUNW, I believe haven't really ever done much, so I would probably say don't watch them long term. But yeah, ICON's kind of starting a curl. You could watch this long. I'm not crazy about it. Daily chart looks good. Got to ask yourself, does it have good news? Is the float low? Does it have low outstanding shares? Does it have any short interest? If it meets all 5 or 6 of the things I just mentioned, then I would follow it long. But if it doesn't, probably stay away from it. So again, daily chart's good, so you could check that one off the list. Next one you want to ask yourself, does it have a low float? If it does, check that off the list. Does it have a good short interest? If it does, check that off the list. Does it have low outstanding shares? If it does, check that off the list. Does it have good strong news? If it does, check that off the list, and it becomes a good trader for you. SUNW, grinding up, starting to pick up in volume. Moves already happened for the most part. You should be in down here. Now you're looking at it because it looks good. Not a good buy. Could keep going, but train's already left the station on that one, most likely. Do I recommend options for Twitter? I recommend options if you know how to trade options. That's what I recommend. I don't recommend options to trade on a particular stock because the stock's moving. I recommend options if you know how to trade them, if you understand the Greeks, if you understand theta, if you can calculate how much money you can make within a move, subtracting your theta. You really need to understand options before you trade options. That's why even I don't trade options all the time. Thoughts on cyber? Don't forget Brazilian NYC. MBRX. MBRX, probably not. MBRX had a really good day yesterday. You could follow it. It's possible that today has a good day, but all today, if it does have it, today is built on hope for MBRT or MBRX, excuse me. All MBRX today is more or less hope. That's what people are hoping for. Is they're hoping for another day, right? The day and the move happened yesterday. Now they're just hoping for another day. Watch MBRX for a long play in 2 days, 2 or 3 days, right? Don't follow it today, but watch it in probably 2, 3, or even 4 days, maybe 5 days out for another long play. Just probably not today. No, I would not swing before earnings. Swinging before earnings is never a good thing to do. My question is, what? So if somebody asks, in that position, certain position, why would you be swinging before earnings? Would you be swinging before earnings because earnings usually have a big move, so you think you can make a lot of money, or you could just wait till after earnings if things seem pretty good, then you could start swinging in the company that you like. Most people in that position swing on earnings to try and hit a big move, and more often than not, they're wrong. It's basically a 50-50, right? So, this is what happens. You swing an earnings play, you make some money, and then you swing an earnings play and you lose some money. It's just not worth it, right? If you're going to be doing it, you want to be buying days ahead of time before earnings so that if you're correct and it starts to trend in your favor before earnings, you can take off 70% of your position, lock in the money you made, leave 30% overnight during the earnings report. Hopefully it goes in your favor. If it does, great, you make more money. If it doesn't and it tanks on you, then you basically wash out that trade you took. So no, I don't think swinging earnings is a great strategy. Just trying to swing earnings. ACB, yes, I'm currently long ACB. Has a nice curl forming. TROV started to push up this morning. Yeah, we could touch on that one. That is something that it was moving this morning pretty decently. Kind of fading out now. Still keeping on watch. It has some news about some cancer stuff. Short float's not that high. Outstanding shares is 4 million. Float is 2.5 million. So yeah, it's okay. It could move. TROV is known to have some crazy spiking days, so it's worth watching, no doubt, right? Where do you buy? You buy as soon as it looks good to get long, right? If you want to buy over this point, maybe, right? And that's the thing is I've done so many of these pre-market watch lists that you always come across, well, what levels are you watching for? It's like, well, it's not even about watching levels. It's about knowing when things are going to move, right? And moves can happen at any price point. Moves can happen at any time in the day. You have to be knowledgeable enough to understand what's taking place within the stock at any given moment. Are people selling it? Are people buying it? Is it a short squeeze? Is it a reversal? Is it a wedge pattern, inverse head and shoulder? I mean, you have to be able to understand truly what's going on, and when it comes to intraday trading, most of this action will happen in a split second, right? Like when you come across a video of someone saying I made this much money trading, or I lost this much money trading, or look at this big move and the stock goes flying, as a new trader, like, oh, I could do that. As soon as I see it going up, I'll just buy. But little do you know, when you're just getting involved in trading, those big moves you see happen, they happen in a couple seconds, 5, maybe even 10 seconds, sometimes 2 seconds, right? So for you to be able to catch that move, you can't wait for it. You have to be able to anticipate that it's going to happen, and that takes a lot of practice. So, I could tell you, hey guys, watch the pre-market high, but it's like, no, don't watch the pre-market high, because look at where the price is, right? If this goes sideways like this, okay, and all of a sudden the price spikes up to pre-market high, and you're trying to buy over pre-market, you're buying at resistance. So if this thing doesn't have enough strength to continue, you're going to get caught in the top and the wash down. Next thing you know, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose big. You're going to go, oh, well, this doesn't work. Well, that's because the move started here, not here. You're buying there for a breakout over highs, which also means you're buying into resistance, okay? See, that is the simple, easy go-to play, is like buying over pre-market highs, or buying, and it works in some situations. I want to say it's not that it doesn't work. It works in some situations and it doesn't in others, right? And so the way you got to look at it is when you buy a breakout in some situations, kind of like you ever heard like the fake out breakout or a false breakout, right? If it doesn't break out, bail out kind of thing. That's because a lot of volume comes into stocks when they're getting close to a breakout level, right? And when they're getting close to a breakout level, that allows a lot of when it gets close to a breakout level, a lot of buyers start to come in, and that allows a lot of people to sell. Get it? You need a lot of buyers in order to sell a lot. So when you get a false breakout, it allows a lot of people to sell into a move on you, right? So in theory, if I was a really big seller, right? If I was a really big seller, where would I know there would be a lot of buyers? Now you're starting to get it. Okay, you have to play, you got to do like reverse engineering in trading, right? It's not about, how or what you make money on. It's about understanding the way the game is played more so than trying to make money, okay? If you keep trying to make money, you're going to find yourself in the losing area more often than not. But if you try and understand how the game is played, you'll find yourself playing the game correctly, right? It's just like a game of chess. If you go out there and you press it really hard trying to win, the other guy's most likely going to beat you every time in chess because he's sitting back playing strategy, just waiting for you to make the move, and then he attacks. So if I was a really big seller, I know that when stocks are getting ready to break out, a bunch of new traders that don't know better start coming and trying to buy that stock, looking for it to break out, and I can just unload my shares onto them. So again, sometimes you got to think reverse psychology in the trading world. So again, as I was saying, I could tell you to buy at pre-market highs or what. Yes, TROV is a significant level at 472 because a lot of people are going to try and sell there. So if the buyers are stronger to outweigh some of the sellers, then we're going to have people shorting at 472. If those short sellers are wrong, buy is strong enough, then yeah, we're going to squeeze over 472. But in the inverse, if there's not enough buyers to outweigh the short sellers and just the sellers in general at 472, it's going to tank. Okay? And you don't know who's going to win the battle every single time. Okay? So this is worth watching, right? And as soon as you can identify a bullish move, that's when you want to hop in. Yeah, so with that being said, what time is it? 8:53. Kevin, yeah, you pay taxes. You send a check to the IRS. I take money out of my account almost every month. Well, unless it was a bad month, then I don't. But yeah, it's pretty simple. You get a 1099 consolidated form. You made this much money. You have, that's basically it. You make this much money. You're going to owe that much in taxes. Everyone really gets confused on. There's a lot to know about taxes, but it's fairly simple. If you just get an accountant, it's pretty much done, right? So, I understand it. I don't teach it because that's a whole slew of mess that I don't even want to get involved with because then you can talk about a whole bunch of stuff. It's just, anyways. But yeah, basically whatever money you make, if you're curious how much you owe in taxes, just go to Google and type in the 2019 tax bracket, and then whatever money you make in a year, find out what your tax bracket is, and that's how much money you're going to pay on the money you make. Or that's how much you're going to owe on the money you make, right? So for me, I pay, it's like 44% or, so basically I give away almost half the money I make per year to the federal government and other people. So I work to give away almost 50% of what I make these days. So great. So eventually, if we keep going the path we're going, right, and we keep adding more free things and we keep adding more government aid and programs and prices for the federal government and everything get so high that eventually I pay more than 50% or 60%, then I just quit working because there's no point. Why would I work to give away 60% of what I make? If it ever gets to that level, then the economy will go to shit because people will stop working because they're giving away most of what they make and there'll be a complete imbalance. And if that's the case, then I might as well stop paying and stop working, right? So it sucks. It just is what it is. But, I hope it never gets to that point. It's already hard enough. But with that being said, we'll end the stream there. So keep an eye on TROV. Tesla's got earnings coming up. Tesla's been bearish. Keep an eye on ACB. ACB seems to be picking up. It's still bullish. We have a little mini cup and handle that could be forming. I'll pull it up on the chart real quick. I do want to touch on this real fast. ACB. So possible little cup and handle here. And curl. So just kind of watching that one now. All right. Yeah, but a 40% of a ton of money is, I can't even, I shouldn't go there. We shouldn't go there. Yeah, right. But I will just touch on this one last thing. It's not about a ton of money. It's about what's yours, right? And no one should be able to dictate how much they get to take from somebody else. That's the problem. I should be the one who gets to choose what I'm willing to give away. That is the problem. Or, well, that's what would be right, essentially. But anyways, politics always brings out the best in people. With that being said, I will see you guys all tomorrow morning if things go as planned, but I think they will, so I should be on tomorrow morning for you guys. Everybody, take care.